they're around, to change who they're watching, to decide to make better decisions. So when it comes to like, don't people know how many germs are on a phone? No, because no one told them yet. They're waiting for their master. They're waiting for their daddy, like government daddy, to tell them not to. And then they won't, you know? So they won't do it on their own. And the inverse is correct as well. So when I am like, well, increase your immune system and maybe reduce inflammation. Let's boil some turmeric and ginger root, okay? Let's put some like clove and star anise in there. Let's do a cinnamon tonic every day. And sometimes a response could be, no one told me this. They're waiting for government daddy to tell them.
Right. I don't know, Sam. Transition. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay. So farmers forced to euthanize livestock as coronavirus strikes food service industry. That was April 27th, 2020.
Yes.
But I'm coming across a lot of different, that was in Delaware, Maryland, and they were specifically the warning to the head of Tyson Foods. So so like a lot of farms are asked to do that. What is your take on
that? On which part exactly, that they're euthanizing a bunch of animals that they can't sell? I think it's disgusting. Well, you already know how I feel about the animal agriculture system anyway, but bigger than this, they keep telling us this won't be the last pandemic. Why? It has something to do with proximity with animals. Yeah, right? They keep saying this. A lot of this comes from pigs. A lot of these viruses for the last century have come from pigs. Why are we not talking about... Why are we not... Yes, pigs and chickens and fowl. We're not talking about our industry of using these said animals to eat. Hello.
Right. There was a documentary I just saw where they were talking about that and how, and while they're doing the documentary, I think it was Pandemic on Netflix, and they're like playing with the pig and sleeping with the pig, and you're like, and they just finished saying the documentary of how, yes, disease can jump species, and how that happens is 99.999 farming and people living with these animals.
Yes.
Living amongst them.
Yes. And living in close proximity and doing things in close proximity. And so once again, I said 3 times already, like the hypocrisy of how everything's being handled is really, really waning on me. You can easily go ahead and say Wuhan and their wet markets, and this is why it's coming from there. It's coming from any of us doing things in close proximity with any of these animals. So we need to talk about the pork industry, and we need to talk about the chicken industry. This is real things to talk about, and no one's touching it. No one's touching with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because our government is run by corporations, including these type of corporations. It is a conversation. I'm not saying one or the other, and I'm not saying go this way or that way. I'm saying it's a conversation that needs to be had, and we're not having it. Right. This is real. How do you scare people of this virus and just tell them to wash their hands, sanitize, and wear a mask, when the biggest reason is because of our proximity to 2 types of animals in particular, pigs and fowl? Right. And we're not talking about
too many of them. It's like you know, you're people. Well, again, I don't want to be attacked and shut off all my social media, magically disappear. But allegedly, allegedly. You know, people are dying from eating these things, you know, cancer causing, you know, eating all this meat and everything. Then you have the environment of having too many animals and all these different flus that come up. I mean, we're getting out on both ends. And this goes back to the beginning of this program, this show, where this all goes back to what you're eating, what you're doing. How can you solve anything when you're killing it on this end, you're killing us on this end, and then right in the center,
because we won't. Thumbs up.
You saw what happened? You see how they almost shut me down?
I saw that. I saw that. And I'm not even saying, and you know what's crazy? I just keep saying the conversation. I'm not saying one or the other.
No,
I'm not even saying the whole animal agriculture. If you heard me, I talked about fowl and pig, right?
listen, I'm an artist. I'm crazy. I could say anything. Purple. See, it's just I don't believe anything that I'm saying. I
But
still play video games. See, I just old school ones, but see, don't
but
listen to me.
it's really just a conversation. And
Right.
one of the things to look at is the population of certain species. So human beings, we were 2 billion on this planet in 1950. We are almost 8 billion in like what, 70 years? That's insane, right?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This
Every
states we got to bring down the population.
well, don't talk about that. Don't. But what I will say is every species on this planet, plant, insect, and animal, has tremendously gone down as our species has gone up, except for the species we raise as food. Cows, pigs, chickens. Those are way up. So their populations have exploded with us because we raise them and artificially inseminate them to keep procreating, and we're having an issue. Like, so just understand where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
Our issue is our own behavior.
Wow.
We started this. We are the reason for it, and we're perpetuating it, and we're not even telling ourselves how we actually effectively protect ourselves from other type of viral pandemics. We're not being honest. And I think it's because we don't want to do the work. We don't want to see ourselves in the reflection. We don't want to be honest with our habits and what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And like, government aside, whatever, but like us too, we're not being real. So many people have said to me when I was changing parts of my diet and getting better and like sleeping less, and my acne was going away and all of this stuff, they would say to me, we're all going to die anyway. What's the point? And one of my responses used to be, but do you want to die slowly over 10 to 20 years? Because who wants to live like that?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're willing to sacrifice every type of like privacy and freedom because they're scared of this virus, because they don't want to do the work to change their inner environment,
Right.
spiritually, mentally, and physically.
Wow.
They
Yeah,
have they
what
had
would you
no
give up?
problems.
What would you give up?
What
are
would
you
you give
willing
up?
to
We're all gonna care that you're gonna die. Now you care. There's something that you can't control so well. You know?
That's so funny because I mean,
Was I frozen? Because you were frozen for a little bit.
oh, okay. You see. But it's interesting. This has been a very slow journey for me. 12 years, actually 12, 13 years now of, and I'm not there yet. I'm not fully, it's a process. But I'm definitely looking at food. Every day I'm looking at food and different things differently. Um, but it's not about me. It's really about the us, as you're saying, as a society. We have to do the work. It's not about Sam doing it. It's not about Michael doing it. It's the collective. You
I, yeah, I know. I see it. I see it. Always.
it's interesting to see where we're going with it. I'm
It's
super
it's it's
optimistic.
always.
I'm super optimistic though, because for those that believe, know, do the research, live with it, the conspiracy theories, eating well, the health nuts, I think everyone could come to the table and at least say something is wrong, right? No one could say things well, and that's huge.
Well, I didn't say anything. Yeah, I am.
So that's progress, no? Nope.
Mm. Um, I, I mean, there's like kind of going on. I can hear what you're basically saying, but things are kind of getting like choppy
Hold on.
because
Is that better? Is that
I
better?
mean, maybe. I mean,
Okay.
kind of, but it's us though. Like it's us. It's us. I'm seeing it. We don't want to do what we need to do, and I think maybe it's scary to face this. I think maybe the idea that no one has an answer for you that's more powerful than you is scary for people. I don't think they like that. I don't think they want to think that our government really doesn't know what to do. You know, I don't know if they want to face that like our economy is done. It is. It's never going to be this America that we felt like in the 90s. It's done. And I think that's a lot for people to deal with. And I think it's easier to be an ostrich and put your head in the sand than to like face it, look at it, cry through it, and be like, all right, what can I do to walk through this mud and trudge the best way I can? And the thing is, the more people who actually do that, though, the better it is in general for everyone. But it's getting people there who are not ready to just give up and be like, I'll just do whatever they tell me, you know, because they're not going to tell you everything to make you better and to bring us together as a society. It's going to be you as individual, and it might be you alone. Your mom and dad might be against you. Your children might be against it. Your brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, and friends. It might be you alone. But eventually, people see your light and people see what's been the positive change and they get curious. And then sometimes you can get a couple other people to come with you. In my experience, I started trying to change my life about 16 years ago. Everyone laughed at me at first. And then people who had issues started calling me on the low. So they'll tease me in public, but they'll call me and say, I have chronic migraines, I don't know what to do. Or like, I'm having fertility issues, I don't know what to do. And then 10 years later, I'm seeing people in their own ways, not like they do what I do, but I'm seeing people, those same people in my life, like doing actual change to better their minds, to better their bodies, to better their spirituality. And I'm not going to say it's like me, but I really think that we all drop seeds for people, you know, who we meet. And other seeds also get dropped, like how seeds were dropped for me from people in my life that made me even get to this point where I'm like, what am I doing? This stuff is actually holding me back, and I didn't realize it. It's sapping my energy, you know? So this is a very reflection.
Do you have faith in food energy? Do you have faith that food will protect you from COVID-19?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not just the food, yes, but it's also just me. I have faith in me.
Right.
Like, like I know I do the right stuff. I see me with my chlorophyll water and drinking my dandelion tea at night. Like I know what I do. Like, and not only that, but I feel good. And when I'm outside, I breathe deep and I let the sun really like bask on me. Like I know I'm here in this world. I know I'm part of this in such a way that I can't explain. But I do the work. And it's hard because not everyone wants to eat like me. It always has to be different when we go out to eat. It always has to like, you know, and it can be easier to just like fall into what everyone else is doing. But once again, if you talk about the hypocrisy, part of my annoyance is people who are like scared of this idea of what this virus might do to them and the family and the world, but then they don't do the best thing that they should do for themselves. Right. That's a lot for me, and I don't really understand it. But like I said, people want a babysitter.
Well, before
they don't know they want a babysitter, but they want a babysitter.
Right. So before we go, let's go through the different teas, mints, fruits, vegetables that that could be helpful during this time of COVID-19.
If you want to do something that's medicinal, then herbs. So that's basil, cilantro, parsley, fennel, mint, dill, celery, because technically celery is an herb. These are things that are literally antiviral. It is nature's medicine, the thing that we've been using for thousands and thousands of years before the last couple of decades of this synthetic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
These are antiviral. So if you're having an acute issue where like, oh my God, I think a fever's coming, I think I might have a virus, get organic cilantro, organic like curly parsley. Don't even chop them up. Just throw them in a huge pot of water, boil it out for like 30 minutes, and drink that sucker down. It's going to give you a tummy ache, but the tummy ache will go away in like 30 minutes. But it will knock out viruses really, really well. So that's one thing people can do, like in emergency. In a non-emergency, eat food that doesn't have ingredient labels. So pick up some berries. Berries, I would say, are better than apples, but they're all good. Eat what you will do, because the best thing that will work are things that you actually do. And also start to be really choosy about where you're going to get your food. If we're all indoors, why are we getting fast food takeout? That doesn't make any sense. You're already ruining your immune system being indoors and being away from people and not going outside. And then you're going to take in food that will further destroy your immune system. So let's start making better choices on that. If you're going to order food out, make sure there's greens in there. Make sure there's like potatoes or yams in there, mushrooms in there, things like that. So that's another thing that we can do. And if you're home and you have the time and space, learn to cook if you're not cooking. Learn to certain recipes. Start having smoothies. Maybe if you're fortunate enough to have some stimulus money come in, get yourself a blender. You know, start making some of these smoothies or some really healthy soups with them. But once again, this all takes personal responsibility and making personal choices that are not easy, and sometimes you're alone in them, and that's life.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. I could dig it. I could totally dig it, and it's true, man. So let's see. So we covered what you could take, what you can do. We talked a little bit about the importance of fruits and vegetables. Can't push that enough. The farming industry has been affected, and which is it's kind of weird because they're killing a whole bunch of animals, innocents, just because they can't.
And then and the supplements too. Yeah, I also want to say just another spiritual aspect to, we have a whole animal agriculture industry, and the demand is dropping right now, and their way of dealing it is to kill instead of just like, let's stop impregnating some of these animals right now. Mm-hmm. Spiritually, what does that do to the work that these people do? Like, there's that energy is in those animals because they're around those animals. That's one. Spiritually, what does that say to us as a community that we allow that to happen? And spiritually, what does that do for a country that we're not making choices to avoid that from happening? And all of that adds to our well-being here on this planet. Like, there's a whole other aspect that's outside of nutrition and mental health, but this spiritual aspect is real. And it's not about a religion, because as you know, I have never been raised inside a religion. So that's not a religion thing for me when I say that at all. Mm-hmm. But the action of what you do to anybody, like, it goes out into the ether, it goes out into the atmosphere, and it affects everything. They've even shown, and I don't eat meat, but they've shown that like kosher and halal meat that are prayed over, the people that eat those meats like have less issues. There's a spiritual aspect of just like appreciation or gratitude over something. I think there's a reason why so many cultures pray before they eat. It's a similar thing. So what happens when you raise animals in situations of torture and trash and dirt and disgustingness and fear, because they get to watch their brothers and sisters get like killed. They see that. And then that's in them. And then you eat that. Like, what? All of this is connected. And once again, it's a conversation to have. It's a conversation, not to say do this or do that, but like, what do you want for yourself and what do you want for this society?
And even just on a scientific, physical level, you release toxins when you're afraid. You release toxins when you're stressed out. So imagine a meat, an animal, because let's just say meat, because it's a living, breathing thing that constantly is releasing stress.
Yes.
constantly releasing fear, and then you eat that.
Yes.
So for those
Yes.
that I don't believe in that, well, what about this? That's just scientific, you know?
I mean, they could not believe in it, but they've
Yeah.
actually have already seen in published reports that, oh, this seems to be affected if the animal is scared, and
Mm-hmm.
if the animal has had a tough life, like, and you eat that, it really actually affects you adversely. Versus like certain more what we say non-modern people who maybe like kill a goat and they share it out for like a whole 2 months, like it affects them differently because it's completely different, and it's like there's a spiritual gratitude in it as well. So like this is a conversation to have.
Yeah.
We really need to question our animal agricultural system.
It's going to be interesting to see how many people like the IG after this and how many leave. I have a couple food places to add on, and like no judgment, just talking about things and things. But it's also going to be interesting too with the rise in, I guess, the what do you call it? Like, I guess the preparing society is the best way. They're just preparing.
Oh
Oh,
yes,
another
the
wave,
preparedness.
another wave. So don't be shocked when
Yes.
things go up again, which again goes back to, well, yes, you keep people inside, they're bored. So then, of course, they're going to drink and party and do all these other things they probably shouldn't do, but they're not getting any exercise. They're not getting any sunlight. They're barely eating well because they're getting a lot of takeout.
Yep. Yep.
Flu season is what, August to November, right? Isn't that
Yep.
typically? So we didn't hit flu season yet. So I'm fearful that a lot of people are going to get the flu and think they got COVID-19 and they just got the regular flu. And they could go and then go to the hospital and then they really have
Um.
it. You know, again,
Yes.
I'm concerned.
I was concerned and I just let that go because I realized I can only like I can control me. And like I said, anyone who's willing to hear it, I will share the information that I've like scoured over the last 15 years with anyone. But I had to let go of other people. I had to let go of like, oh, but only if only they knew. Oh, no, sometimes people don't want to know, and then there will be suffering. But I
Does
can't
this
hold on
affect
to that.
food? Because so far we've been very, very, at least we could speak for this country or where we are in the country, where there's plenty of food. There's been no
Yes.
shortage of food. But will there be
Yes.
a shortage in a couple months?
There wouldn't be a shortage in the globe because we actually have an overabundance of food. It's the economics and distribution of such that
Mm-hmm.
actually affects us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never going to be a question about is there going to be a shortage of food? It's will they cut off how it's distributed to people? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
There will never be a shortage of food. There, all the food insecurity and hunger in the world, and we have an abundance of food production. It's not that. So the question is, will they create a situation where the channels get blocked a little bit because of certain reasons?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us would do better if you're concerned about virus and pandemics to change some of these food agricultural systems to from meat to plants.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. It's less energy intensive, it's more environmental, and it's healthy for the planet and for us. This is a conversation that needs to be had that's not being had in the upper levels of at least our government, and also not with a lot of people. But if a pandemic is really your concern, that should be on the table. We're getting these things mostly from pigs and fowl. They're not hiding it. They told us this, but they're not talking about our industry. And then we don't have to worry as much with like a food shortage issue in distribution, because if we have more of this land dedicated to plants, growth, fruit trees, vegetables, roots, things like that, it makes it so much cheaper and food will be more accessible. But are we willing to have the conversation? Are we willing to actually make tough choices, look at ourselves as a humanity, and make judgment on some of the things we've done as a people? Because I think that's probably the biggest reason why we don't change, because we have to admit to ourselves that we messed up big time for all these years.
And getting it on track is, it's interesting. I mean, this is where food is very political. And obviously there's a lot of money in it because we all need it. It's necessary. So it's a driving force in bills and laws. It's a great opportunity. I keep saying that. People, what do you think about everything? I say everything is it could get on track now. This is a platform for us to talk about that everyone can communicate. Well, thank you, Sensei V. A shout out. Yeah, I mean, like, we can get on track because now we have something that we can agree on, and it doesn't become, like I was saying before, oh, you're a weirdo, you don't eat. What do you mean you don't eat steak? What's wrong with you? What do you mean you don't eat this or that? Where even if we just lessen it, just lessen it. Even a conversation of pulling back. Have your 20,000 cow ranch, but not your 50,000 cow ranch. You see what I'm saying? Just like, relax.
I do.
One of the documentaries, again, check it. And then the second wave, they gave like all the new foul antivirus medicine, which is totally gross because now you're thinking like, oh, those are foul that ended up in your I don't want to say any brand names, but different canned soups and different things that are sent to Asia over to America. People don't realize how much stuff is actually not made here. But yeah, they did the work. They said, we got to kill all these fowl because people are getting too sick. We could do it. We could do it, Sam. We can do it.
The potential is there. It's up to us as individuals, and to reflect and to face the bad decisions we've been making, and then move past the judgment, and then we can like do better. But right now, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with people who I find very smart, and I'll say these things and they agree and they keep doing it. And some people aren't ready and they'll be out of time.
Well,
I'm not talking about, say it again.
But we got about 60 seconds or something. But finish your statement again.
Yeah, it's up to us to see ourselves for who we've been as a people and as individuals, understand our part in this. Like, this is not just super random. We did this with our habits. We created this. We can also stop that with different habits. And are you willing to do the work to change yourself and your mind and your spirit and your body? Are you willing? Because you're the only one in your own way.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone for checking out our IG Live, The Real Foodcaster. You're watching the show Foodcaster, hopefully on cable. If not, you've seen this live broadcast. We will play this on cable as well. We want people to get this information, talk about it. Don't take anything that we say for gospel. Do your research, talk about it, keep the conversation going. At this point, we have a wonderful platform to keep the conversation going, and hopefully we'll come up with something that benefits humanity.
Yay! Right. Thank
Michael.
You very much.
Check out Sam Eats Plants. Check her out on IG. Check her out on IG.